Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 393 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about Lane Kiffin. I want to say up top that I don't consider myself at all to be an expert on college football, nor do I watch it a lot. But even I can't ignore the biggest story in sports right now, and that's Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss for LSU. Since I started watching football, I've known the name Lane Kiffin, going back to the days when he was the head coach of the Raiders. And I've kept track of his time as a college football coach, and I think he's kind of the opposite of your typical college football coach. Most of them want to be lifers with one school, stay there for 20 years, and be treated like a king. And I have to give this to Kiffin. He's clearly not afraid of being disliked. And right now, he's back to being one of the most hated figures in sports because everyone is questioning his loyalty, and the perception is this is a money grab or that this is about LSU being a dream job. I don't buy any of that. He's had so many of what people would call dream jobs. I feel as though we are talking about someone who likes to be in the spotlight. I think he loved the days when people were wondering whether or not he was going to leave Ole Miss for LSU. He just makes way more sense as a college football coach than an NFL one because they are treated like stars in college football. It's a big deal when a coach goes to a new team. I also believe we are talking about someone who loves the fact that everyone has an opinion on him, good or bad. While most are treating Lane Kiffin as the ultimate villain, others are looking at this situation and seeing the flaws of college football and how it's the wild, wild west, and how this is just another example of how it became more of a business and less of a sport. There's no other league where a coach negotiates to leave during a season, especially during a postseason run. And I don't think there's any good reason why Lane Kiffin needs to be with LSU right now. Yes, as I'm recording this podcast, I was reading an article about how good the recruiting process is going for Lane Kiffin at LSU right now. I think he could have waited a week and still have done a good job of recruiting players to LSU. I mean, we are talking about LSU, a premier college destination. And on the same hand, I don't understand Ole Miss not wanting Lane Kiffin to remain the coach of their team, at least until the end of this postseason run. I mean, it's all about this year. The future doesn't matter. You are interfering with what is going on with your football team right now. Yes, maybe it would be a great story if Ole Miss wins it all without Lane Kiffin. Bad choices were made on both sides, but it goes back to how is this allowed to happen other than everyone talking about this? How is this actually good for college football? And is this going to continue to happen? Part of me thinks this is just more of a Lane Kiffin situation, but other coaches have done similar things as well. When is somebody going to regulate what is going on with these head coaches in college football? When is Lane Kiffin going to be stopped? The reaction to this story shows that people have higher moral standards for coaches than they do for players because they are supposed to be leaders and dependable, and I get that, but there is a business aspect to this. College football is this guy's job, and he just knows how to work the system better than anyone else right now. I was trying to think of people to compare to Lane Kiffin to, but there's not that many people out there like him. I was thinking about Josh McDaniels, who is currently the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots. He has been a head coach twice, and I think that because Josh McDaniels is having success with Drake May, that there's a chance that Josh McDaniels will get another opportunity with another football team to be a head coach once again, because the perception is Josh McDaniels is a genius. And that applies to Lane Kiffin too, because both of these guys are thought of as genius play callers, but they haven't had that much success as head coaches. I mean, Lane Kiffin is having his best run as a college coach. He couldn't make it as an NFL head coach. Lane Kiffin is just really good at selling himself. He is a good salesman, and I think Josh McDaniels must have some of that in him as well. The other reason I compare them, because they have both done things that make you go, wow, because of this, you will never get another opportunity to be a head coach. Josh McDaniels accepted the head coaching position of the Colts and then left the job. I will end this comparison by saying this. I don't think there's anything that could happen to either of these two that would make me believe they will not get another opportunity to be a coach. People will always somehow believe in Lane Kiffin, and people will always somehow believe in Josh McDaniels. And us, the fans, will always have strong opinions about these two coaches, especially Lane Kiffin right now. But I think people will have a similar feeling towards Josh McDaniels if he is given another opportunity to be a head coach. And I think that's not that far away from happening, because right now Drake May is having an MVP type season with Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator. Getting back to Lane Kiffin, I don't know or care if this move works, and I don't know if Lane Kiffin is going to win big at LSU. What I do feel confident in saying is this by no means will be his final stop as a head coach. He will never be a guy who coaches a team for a decade. He's going to continue to leverage his way to other jobs or salary bumps, and honestly, I don't think that makes him the villain. He's just really good at playing the game and is the ultimate attention seeker. Having said what I've said on this podcast, I will say this. I believe him to be the most interesting figure in college football when it comes to head coaches. I mean, I can't talk about Nick Saban for an hour, but I could definitely talk about Lane Kiffin because he is an interesting figure. You don't know why he does the things he does. Is he doing it for the money? Is he doing it for the publicity? Is he doing it because LSU is a dream job? It's pretty much a blanket statement to make, but most coaches in all sports are really boring figures, especially in modern sports where we all believe that they're just going by analytics. I mean, this is a guy who is interesting to hear talk, at least. And I think maybe the most interesting thing about him is he really does believe he's bigger than these schools. I 1000% believe that Lane Kiffin thinks he is bigger than LSU, that he was bigger than USC. I mean, he doesn't care about these actual opportunities. He just loves the fact that he's going to these places and he's making a big mess along the way. It doesn't take an expert to say that this is not a guy who is looking for a stable situation. He loves how chaotic college football has become because it's created who he is. I mean, if he had just been a coach in the NFL, like if he had gotten a second opportunity in the NFL, he would not be as big of a name as he is right now. College football has kind of created the monster that is Lane Kiffin, which is why I find it hard to completely blame Lane Kiffin. When you have absolutely no structures and no good rules, this is what you create. You create Lane Kiffin. You create a guy who's looking for every opportunity he can to get more money and to get more attention. We are also talking about a guy who has benefited with his associations with other great coaches. Pete Carroll, who has won a Super Bowl title and a national championship, and then you have Nick Saban. I mean, that's how we view Lane Kiffin, as like one of those guys who has worked with those coaches. They're kind of mentors to him, and that's another reason why he's given every opportunity at big schools. To go back to my comparison with Josh McDaniels for a minute, that's why he was given 2 opportunities to be the head coach of an NFL team because of his association with Bill Belichick. I'm sure every time that Lane Kiffin gets hired as a head coach, the idea is maybe we have the next Pete Carroll, maybe we have the next Nick Saban. I keep going back to this. I don't know if this is good for the sport of college football to have a guy like Lane Kiffin just moving on with every opportunity he gets. Like, I don't know if that's good or not. I think back in the day, it was a bigger deal if a guy like Lane Kiffin stayed with Ole Miss, created a powerhouse. I mean, that's how you get to become one of those head coaches that we talk about for the right reasons. I mean, is anybody talking about Lane Kiffin for the right reasons right now? And think about how awkward the conversation is going to get if Ole Miss wins it all this season. How are people going to feel about Lane Kiffin? Are some people going to give him credit, or are they going to go, look, Ole Miss was able to save their season despite this guy leaving them? And then there's a part of me that believes that Lane Kiffin probably is okay with scorning the likes of Ole Miss because he himself has been scorned in the past by the Raiders. They fired him, by USC. I mean, they literally left him at an airport when he was let go by that college. That is how you create somebody who is disloyal when he is not given loyalty himself. But don't try to sell me on this idea that this is Lane Kiffin's dream job. He would do the exact same thing to LSU if another team offers him more money. I believe in the next 3 years, there will be whispers of Lane Kiffin talking to another team, and then LSU will give him a bigger contract. I know how this game is played, probably more than I know about the actual game of college football. That's what I'm trying to tell you here. That's the problem. It's not about the actual sport anymore. It's about these guys wanting to get the absolute most money and attention from being a head coach of these schools. Lane Kiffin is just too aware of what an actual modern college football coach is. He's too good at the game that he's playing. Nobody is going to stop him. I don't believe they're going to stop him. I don't think they're going to come out with some rule that says you need to stay with this team till the end of the season. I don't think there's going to be a deadline where you can start negotiating. These kind of shady moves are going to continue to happen, and Lane Kiffin is always going to be at the center of it. And the public is always going to be split. I mean, you're hearing it now. There are some people defending him, saying, how can you be mad at a guy for trying to get a better opportunity at his job? And my favorite, because they're really annoying, those people that say, what about loyalty? What does that mean in sports? Isn't that what sports is about? And the thing that I think most of you are aware of is that Lane Kiffin does not care about these opinions. He doesn't care about how I feel about the situation. He doesn't care about how Ole Miss feels about the situation. He doesn't even care about how LSU feels about it. He just cares about how he feels about it. He has turned himself into a singular entity. He's not one organization. He's not one football team. His profession is as a coach. That is it. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say that this is a guy who doesn't care about winning a national championship, because that's not fair. Yes, I think Lane Kiffin knows that for the bottom line, it's in his best interest to win with LSU, but I don't think that it would ruin this guy's life if his tenure with LSU wasn't stellar. I mean, I think he would just move on to the next thing. He would try to regroup and take another job with a smaller program. What's remarkable in all this is Lane Kiffin is still only 50 years old. So yes, there is an outside chance that he does settle down with LSU, that he's their coach until he's 75 years old. But how many of you out there actually believe that is going to happen? Because I know I don't. Maybe he's going to be there 5 to 6 years. Maybe he wins a national championship or two, but he is going to leverage this situation into another one. Maybe he wasn't at first, but he has become a journeyman by choice. Anything could happen in this situation. I mean, this could really work out for Lane Kiffin and LSU, and maybe he finally wins a national championship. But then equally, this could be a massive, massive failure. But if anybody could repair his reputation, it is Lane Kiffin, because he will always have the cachet to be able to go to a school like Florida International and repair his reputation and then get another good job. It should no longer surprise anyone when Lane Kiffin gets a job you did not think he was qualified for. Stop acting surprised. I'm usually not this interested in the hirings or firings of college coaches because I don't like the idea of having to be perfect to keep your job. And that's how I feel about college coaches. I mean, they have to have perfect records. They have to compete at the highest level. I mean, in professional sports, you lose about 5 games a year and you're considered a great head coach. But in college football, you're dealing with the nonsense of strength of schedules, and you're also dealing with these other great schools that have a great legacy, like in Alabama. It's complicated because I don't actually know whose side I'm on, college football or Lane Kiffin, because I don't think college football cares what Lane Kiffin is doing. Again, I don't think they're going to do anything to stop him. I think these kinds of things are going to continue to happen. I don't think all of a sudden college football is going to be structured and they're going to have rules about when a coach can take a job and when he can't. And I'm sure the people that actually pretend to run college football like this chatter that's happening around Lane Kiffin. I mean, people are talking about this story like myself, who normally don't even follow the sport, because even the casualest of sports fans go, wow, that's really weird that a coach can leave another team right before a playoff run just because he wants to. Like, this is something that is allowed to happen, and if they fired that guy on their own, he would get a huge buyout. Make it make sense. Logical people do not understand what's happening in college football, and that's why many of them don't understand this story. And Lane Kiffin will say all of the right things. He'll say that he wants to see Ole Miss win. He'll say that he wanted to stay there till the very end, but we don't know the truth because Ole Miss was never going to allow Lane Kiffin to stay on till the end of the season, and he knew that that was never going to happen. What I've been thinking is this: does Lane Kiffin actually like being the villain? And I don't think the answer is yes. I just think this is a guy who does not care. He does not care how I feel about it. He does not care about how you feel about it. He's just going, well, they're going to allow me to look at other opportunities to make my life better. I'm going to take those opportunities and I'm going to let you all talk about it afterwards. And then I'll let Marty Smith, of all people, interview me on ESPN and I'll make my statements known. Even if LSU becomes a powerhouse, I don't know how many people are actually going to look back at this and say, yeah, I feel good about what went down here. Nobody feels good about it from the side of Ole Miss. Nobody feels good about it from the side of LSU. Nobody is really taking the side of Lane Kiffin, and everyone is trolling college football. I do think the silliest opinions I've heard are the people who are acting surprised that they let Lane Kiffin fool them. Like Paul Feinbaum is is out here on ESPN saying that I will never believe Lane Kiffin again. I mean, how did you buy what Lane Kiffin was selling you in the first place? This is who Lane Kiffin is. It's not that complicated. So he made a documentary or whatever and got you to believe that he's changed. That's the whole idea. He's trying to build up his goodwill so that he can be in another situation like this and get a job from a place like LSU. That's the whole point of what he was doing from the get-go. Say what you will about him, and I have on this podcast, but he's not trying to fool anyone. I think he's pretty out in the open about what his true intentions are of being a head coach. He's going to go through these ups and downs. He's going to go to these smaller schools. Then he's going to build back up his name and take the biggest job possible and take the most amount of money. It's not shocking or crazy that Lane Kiffin went to LSU. It would have been shocking and crazy if he had decided to stay at Ole Miss long term. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So please rate, review, and subscribe.